Okay, I'm going to get started by welcoming everyone. Welcome to Wat Tung Yu. Nice to see all of you guys here. Welcome to everyone who's joining us online as well. Today is our group learning program, and we're actually coming to the end of this program. Today is the last day of this particular course. It's a 7-month program where what I've been doing is walking students through this book chapter by chapter each Sunday, helping students to develop a foundation in the path to enlightenment. And you can get this book at no cost. You can download it from our website. You can take it and go print it. You can get printed versions here by just reimbursing us for our printing costs, or you can get it on Amazon. And we're going to be restarting this program essentially next week and the week after. We have an unofficial restart next week where we're going to be doing getting to know the teacher, where students are going to be able to ask any and all questions of the teacher that they would like. And then the following week, we're going to be having the official restart of the group learning program. So since I've been teaching for 7 months of how to get to enlightenment, here the very last day of this particular program, I teach what's called the Five Hindrances. These are the 5 things that are going to hinder you or obstruct you from getting to enlightenment, because it's nice to learn all the things that you need to do in order to be able to move the mind and train the mind to this enlightened mental state. But you'd also like to know, what are the obstacles? What are the things that are going to hinder you or block you from attaining that? And that's what today's class is all about. I'm going to start with meditation to help you guys learn about meditation and do some meditation. But then afterwards, I'm going to teach you the 5 hindrances. So we'll talk about that after the meditation. If you'd like to join for the meditation, the way that I start this is with some chanting to ease us into the meditation. And if you'd like to chant along, you're more than welcome to. We have the chants on the cabinet over there on a laminated sheet. You're welcome to help yourself to get a chanting sheet, and you're welcome to chant along. Anybody who's online, if you would like to chant along, you can go to our website, buddhadailywisdom.com, click on free books, and then scrolling down towards the bottom, you'll see the daily chanting sheet. If you get one of these chanting sheets and you happen to read the English translations, you're going to see a lot of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for the Buddha. And because of that, I don't think the Buddha actually created these chants himself, because a Buddha doesn't walk around with ego and arrogance and thinking that they're above other people. They're not going to hand out chants and say, hey, chant this to me out of respect for me. This would be the ego that would be interested to do that. So where chanting came about was during the lifetime of the Buddha. He used chanting as a way to help his students remember the teachings. That every 2 weeks, his students would come together and they would recite his teachings orally as a way to commit them to their memory, because everything he taught was oral. Nothing was written down during his life, because the technology didn't exist to write things down during his lifetime. So it wasn't until after his death that they actually wrote things down. So all during his life and ever since then, we've used chanting as a way to remember the teachings. But we don't need to use chanting to remember the teachings now, because we do have books and audiobooks and videos and podcasts and things like this. So where chanting comes about now is that it helps to ease the mind into meditation and get more benefits out of the meditation itself. But you can see from the origins of chanting that there isn't anything mystical or magical about these chants. It's not a rite, a ritual, or a ceremony or worship. It's not prayer or anything like that. If you've been exposed to any of those kinds of things related to the teachings of the Buddha, that's not the actual teachings of the Buddha. He doesn't teach rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship. He doesn't teach those kinds of things. Nothing in his teachings is mystical and magical. There's no belief in his teachings. So when you hear these chants, or if you decide to chant along, it's to help ease your mind into meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation itself. So you're welcome to chant along if you'd like. After the chanting, I'm going to come in with some guidance to help you during the meditation, where you're going to hear me kind of speaking and instructing you while we're actually meditating together. Then there's going to be a period of time where it's just quiet and we're just all meditating together. I'm sure you'll hear occasional sounds. You might hear a car go by, a bird chirping, a dog barking, someone might sneeze or cough, because you can't be in an environment where it's permanently quiet. If your mind craves permanent quietness, when you hear a sound during meditation, you'll cause yourself to be frustrated or annoyed or agitated. But you can understand that the world is impermanent and everything is constantly changing around you, and you're not going to be able to ever meditate in an environment where it's permanently quiet. Then that way, when you're doing the meditation and you hear a sound, you just understand, like, of course, this is impermanence. This is the way the world's structured. So as we're meditating during that period of time where it's quiet, I'm sure you hear an occasional sound here or there, but you can just keep performing the meditation where you're focused on the breath. You'll hear me guide you during the meditation. Then after that, we're going to come out of the meditation with some more chanting. And that's where I'll start today's class, and I'll teach you guys the 5 hindrances or the 5 obstructions to getting to enlightenment. In terms of your body positioning for meditation, there's 4 positions that the Buddha taught. He taught seated, lying, standing, and walking. And you would use these different positions at different times, and you would learn them as part of your journey to enlightenment, because your body can't be permanently in the same position. But oftentimes people are learning in the seated position, so I'll help you with a little bit of guidance on the seated position to help you get more comfortable. And you can take any position you like. You can find whatever's comfortable. So what I share with you here, this is just something for you to consider, some suggestions and guidance, but you find whatever's comfortable for you, because all of our bodies are different and we'll find different things to be comfortable. So if you're on the floor, you might sit with some cushions under your rear. This is how oftentimes people sit to make it more comfortable for you. And if you're crossing your legs, you might have your legs just lightly crossed, right? This is going to help the circulation flow, whereas if your legs were real tight, this could cause pain in the lower body. Some people like to put their legs off the mat. This gets your hips up in the air, and it lessens the angle at the hips, the knees, and the ankles. So if you'd like to do that, that's an option for you as well. The Buddha put his right hand over his left with his thumbs together, and he put this into his lap. If this is comfortable, you could actually do this. So there's other positions though. There's other options. Some people like to put their palms on their thighs or on their knees. Some people put their palms up. Some people rest their hands comfortably in their lap. So you can choose whatever is comfortable for you. You might actually be using a chair, or if you're at home, you might be in a bench or a sofa or a wheelchair or something like this. You can sit however you're comfortable. So if you're sitting in a chair, oftentimes people like to either put their feet flat on the floor or lightly cross at the ankles. But here I am sitting in a chair with my legs crossed. So that's an option for you as well. So again, find whatever's comfortable. And then the same thing for anybody who's in a chair or on a bench or a sofa or a wheelchair, anything like that. You can put your hands and arms wherever you like. In terms of your upper body, it's really helpful if this is erect with your sternum up and your shoulders back. It'll help keep your mind attentive and alert during the meditation, and it'll also make it easy for you to breathe in and out through the nose. Whereas if you were slouched, the mind would have a tendency to be dull or lethargic. But if you were real rigid, the mind can be overactive or uptight. So you'd like the upper body to be in the middle, where the mind can be attentive and alert, and make it easy for you to breathe. Because this is a dedicated, active, purposeful training session where you're eliminating certain unwholesome qualities from the mind, and you're cultivating certain wholesome qualities in the mind. So you need your mind to be attentive and alert during this period. So by having the body in the middle with your sternum up and your shoulders back will help keep the mind attentive and alert and make it easy for you to breathe in and out through the nose so that you can actually train your mind during the meditation. So again, I'm going to chant on the way in. You guys are welcome to join if you like. And then afterwards, I'll come back in with some guidance to help you. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakawa Bhutang Mahakavanang Apivateyami Sawakato Mahakavata Tammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Mahakavato Sāvaka Saṅkho Sanghang Namami Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa นะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมะคะวะอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารณังสัมมุโนสกาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสานามาสติสัตตาตาวามนุสนังพุทโธภาควาติ Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, and the upper body erect. Just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath, a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathing gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Bhutang Bhagavanang Abhivateyami Savakato Bhagavata Tammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Sanghang Namami Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti piso Bhagava Arahang Samma Sambuddho Vicacaranang Sammuno Sakato Rokavitu Anutero Purisa Dhamma Sati Satatawa Manusanang Bhuto Bhagavati. Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation. Once again, welcome to everyone. Nice to see everyone here this morning. Welcome to everyone online as well. Welcome. Glad that you guys have had an opportunity to join us. As I was mentioning, today is the very last class of a 7-month program where I've been teaching students how to make their way to enlightenment through the teachings of the Buddha. And today I'm going to be sharing with you what's called the 5 hindrances. These are the 5 obstructions that are going to block somebody from being able to actually attain enlightenment. Before I talk about that, since some of you guys haven't been here throughout the whole 7-month program, I'd like to share with you a bit about what enlightenment is, because that way you'll understand today's topic a lot better. Because the mind can actually experience this enlightened mental state where it's peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy, where it no longer experiences any discontent feelings. You can get to the point where your mind no longer experiences any anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. All these feelings and others can be eliminated through training of the mind. What people oftentimes think is that the feelings that they're experiencing are being caused by other people. You might think your mom is making you angry, or your dad is annoying you, or your brothers or sisters are frustrating you, or something like this. But this isn't actually true. The difficulties and struggles that one experiences in day-to-day life with certain feelings like anger, sadness, frustration, and others, this is all coming from one's own mind. And the Buddha figured out what is causing these feelings and how to actually eliminate them. He figured this out on his own, and he trained his mind to get to this peaceful and joyful mental state, and he spent the rest of his life sharing what did he do to be able to get to that enlightened mental state so that other people could get to it as well. Essentially, what he discovered is there's certain pollutions that are in the mind, and when you uproot these pollutions out of the mind through training of the mind, you'll be able to experience these improved qualities of mind, like no longer experiencing any discontentedness. Not only that, will you not experience the anger, the sadness, and the frustration, but you'll experience focus, concentration, clarity, and deep memory, because your mind's going to be performing optimally. By the time you uproot those pollutions out of the mind, you won't be hindered by those any longer. So if you're lacking concentration or you have difficulties remembering things, you can actually improve this through training of your mind. By the time you get to enlightenment, you'll see that your personal and professional relationships are really improving. They're really blossoming and they're at ease. Right now, you might have a certain level of bitterness and hostility or resentment in some of your relationships, and you can improve all of this. But oftentimes what we try to do is we try to change other people, and you might think that that's the way you're going to get to harmony in your relationships, but that's not going to actually work, because you can't change other people, and not everybody's interested in doing things the same way as you. It's only you that does things the way that you do them. So if you're trying to change other people in order to get to harmony in your relationships, this isn't actually going to work. But if you train your own mind, you can actually get to harmonious relationships where you don't have difficulties and struggles in your day-to-day interactions with the people around you. By the time you uproot these pollutions out of the mind that the Buddha discovered, you'll not even experience a bad mood any longer. That the causes and conditions that are producing a bad mood have been uprooted out of the mind, and now the mind can be cheerful and bright and glad and radiant and uplifted. And this is a permanent mental state. Once your mind is in the enlightened mental state, it will never again experience any of these discontent feelings. It's physically impossible for the enlightened mind to experience anger or sadness or frustration or any of these other discontent feelings that I mentioned. So this is all occurring through training of the mind. The teachings of the Buddha aren't about believing a bunch of things and then hoping something good happens when you die. It's not about rules or commandments. It's not about rites or rituals or ceremonies. It's about training of your mind and learning about how your mind functions and how the natural world around you is functioning. When you're struggling and having difficulties, this is just because there's certain wisdom about this world that your mind doesn't understand. That's what the stress and the anxiety and the frustration and all those other feelings are there for. It's pointing out for you and helping you to see that there are certain things about this world that you don't understand yet, and you're struggling, you're having difficulties. So the teachings of the Buddha are about cultivation of wisdom, which is going to lead to this awakening of the mind or this enlightened mental state. So to make your way to that enlightened mental state, there's certain pollutions that you need to uproot out of the mind. We're going to be talking about the 5 hindrances that the Buddha shared, because these 5 hindrances are things that are going to block you or obstruct you from being able to train your mind, uproot these pollutions, and be able to experience these improved qualities of mind. I'm going to introduce you to the 5 hindrances. I'm going to explain to you what they are. But before I even do that, I'm going to teach you what's called the 7 Factors of Enlightenment, because in some cases, the 7 Factors of Enlightenment are what's actually the remedy or the solution to helping you uproot the 5 hindrances. Sometimes people think the 7 Factors of Enlightenment are to determine whether you are enlightened or you aren't enlightened, but that's not actually true. What you're going to see is that they're actually tools to fine-tune the mind. But let me just show you some words of the Buddha on the 5 hindrances. He talks about the 5 hindrances in multiple places within his teachings, but this is just one place where he talks about them. So I'm just going to share with you his original words so that you can have confidence that he actually taught these. And then I'm going to teach it to you so you can understand it. He says, monks, there are these 5 hindrances. What 5? The hindrance of sensual desire, the hindrance of ill will, the hindrance of complacency, the hindrance of restlessness and worry, the hindrance of doubt. These are the 5 hindrances. This noble eightfold path is to be developed for direct knowledge or experience of these 5 hindrances, for the full understanding of them, for their complete destruction, for their abandoning. Right? Because you need to abandon or destroy or eliminate these 5 hindrances out of the mind through training of the mind. So there's a core central teaching that the Buddha taught called the Eightfold Path. And I teach that in all the foundational programs. And in this particular program, I taught it very thoroughly at the very beginning. So like next month, when we restart this program, I'm going to be doing a 3-part series on the Eightfold Path, diving into it in detail. In all the foundational courses and retreats, I'm teaching the Eightfold Path because it's a core central teaching that you need in order to make your way to enlightenment. When we talk about the path to enlightenment, It's the Eightfold Path. That is the path to enlightenment. You're going to need to commit that teaching to your memory and learn it inside and out, backwards and forwards, left, right, up, down, in order to be able to practice it on a day-to-day basis to actively train the mind. So in order to accomplish anything in the teachings of the Buddha, you would need to know the Eightfold Path. And that's why I teach it so often and so frequently. And if you're not going to be here in Chiang Mai when I'm teaching this, you can attend by live stream if you'd like to attend live. But it's also been recorded many times on our YouTube channel. We have it on our podcast. You can read it in our books, our audiobooks. You can learn the Eightfold Path with the resources that we share. So you're going to need to know the Eightfold Path and get that well underway. And that's going to help you to gradually wear away the five hindrances. But there's other things that you're going to need to know as well. That's why I'm going to teach you the 7 Factors of Enlightenment and some other things today as well. But here, at least with the words of the Buddha, you can gain confidence that he indeed taught these 5 hindrances. And this is a reference here that takes you back to his original source teachings and what's called the Pali Canon. The Pali Canon is 45 volumes of books that are about this thick, and that's his teachings. That's the largest, most complete collection we have of the teachings of the Buddha. So this is an excerpt from that. And this is a reference that will take you back to that if somebody was interested in gaining confidence that yes, the Buddha did indeed teach these. So just kind of like looking at the 5 hindrances from afar before we dive into them in detail, the 5 hindrances have similarities to the 10 fetters. For those of you guys that have studied the 10 fetters, these are the 10 individual pollutions or the taints or the defilements that the Buddha taught, and he discovered these and how to uproot them out of the mind. That's what you're actually doing in order to make your way to enlightenment. You need to uproot the 10 fetters. And it's called a fetter because during the lifetime of the Buddha, if you were a criminal and they were trying to keep you trapped or confined in a certain area, they would attach a fetter to your ankle. This was a shackle and a chain and a ball. And they would just turn you out in like a field, an open field. Where today we put prisoners in jail cells and prison cells and things like that. During the lifetime of the Buddha, they would attach a fetter to your ankle and it would keep you trapped in a certain area. So when the Buddha discovered these 10 pollutions in the mind, he referred to them as fetters because it's keeping the mind trapped in this unenlightened state where it keeps experiencing anger and sadness and frustration and all these feelings over and over and over again. So the mind is trapped. And it's when you eliminate these fetters that your mind is free. You're liberated. Your mind is no longer experiencing those discontent feelings. Life becomes very easy and straightforward to you. So these 5 hindrances have some similarities to the 10 fetters. You're going to see this as I'm sharing them with you for those of you guys that are familiar with the 10 fetters. So it's through learning and practicing the Eightfold Path that's going to eliminate the 10 fetters. There are specific teachings that the Buddha shares that's going to teach you how to uproot these 10 fetters out of the mind. And it's the Eightfold Path that is the core central teaching for that. And then as you include in the 7 Factors of Enlightenment, this will also help you to eliminate the 5 hindrances. So the same things that are eliminating the 5 or the 10 fetters are the same things that are going to eliminate the 5 hindrances as well. Gautama Buddha's teachings oftentimes point to each other. You can see this overlaying and layering approach that he has in his teachings. So examples like the 3 universal truths, the 4 noble truths, the Eightfold Path, the 5 precepts, these are all interconnected teachings that kind of overlay each other. And we can see the same thing is true with the 5 hindrances and the 10 fetters. So if you're experiencing any kind of struggles or impediments on the path to enlightenment, if you're noticing that you're having challenges making your way forward as you've learned the Eightfold Path, as you're implementing the various teachings of the Buddha, and you're noticing you're having challenges and making progress towards enlightenment, you might decide to look at the 5 hindrances to be able to see what hindrances are blocking you or obstructing you from making progress on this path. And then you can implement the solutions, and that's what's going to help you to continue to make forward progress on the path to enlightenment. So first, let me help you understand the 7 factors of enlightenment. These are tools to help you fine-tune the mind, and then we're going to go in and talk about the 5 hindrances and their solutions. I'll explain to you what they are and how to actually remedy them. But first, let me make sure you understand the 7 factors of enlightenment, because these are going to help you to eliminate the 5 hindrances. So if you think about like a sculpture, if you were making a sculpture, if you had a big piece of raw wood and you were going to make a sculpture, at first you'd probably get out like an axe or a hatchet and you start chunking off big chunks of wood. Maybe you're going to make this intricate item, maybe like a figurine of a human being or something. You're going to probably get that big raw piece of wood and start chucking off big chunks of wood with like a hatchet or an axe. And you might think about this, for those of you guys that are familiar with it, like the Eightfold Path. The Eightfold Path is going to chuck off wrong view and wrong intention and wrong speech and wrong action, wrong livelihood, wrong effort, wrong mindfulness, and wrong concentration, because you learn the right view, right intention, and so forth and so on as part of the Eightfold Path. So this is kind of bringing that raw piece of wood down to kind of something that's more manageable, because this is what you're doing on the path to enlightenment, is you're turning this being into a better and better human being. Because right now, if you're experiencing anger and frustration and these other feelings, your mind has certain unwholesome things that are in your mind, and you're experiencing these certain feelings because the mind has not been purified. It hasn't been trained. So this path to enlightenment is to become a better and better human being, much like you're maybe turning this raw piece of wood into a better and better sculpture. So initially, you need to chuck off big chunks of wood, which is helping you through the Eightfold Path, chucking off those big chunks of wood. But eventually, as you're chucking off those big chunks of wood, you're going to get down to a more manageable piece of wood. And now you need to come in with a different tool. You can't use the axe or the hatchet anymore. You might come in with kind of like a razor blade and kind of really fine tune the sculpture that you're creating. Maybe to put the eyelashes in or put the wrinkles around the eyes or something like that. That's what the 7 factors of enlightenment are. They're to come in and fine tune the mind. Because what the Buddha is teaching you here in these 7 factors is the first factor that you would like to be practicing at all times during your day is something called mindfulness. This is awareness of mind. You would like to be practicing this at all times during your day. Because oftentimes when you go through life, you might not even be aware of what's going on in your mind. You might even not notice that anger and that frustration and that sadness. You might not notice those frustrating thoughts. You might not notice that you're hating somebody else, because that hate is coming from your own mind. It's not coming from the other person. You might not notice that you're having conceited thoughts where you're being arrogant and prideful and you're looking down on other people. You're judging other people and maybe putting yourself above them, or maybe you're putting yourself below people. You might not even notice those kinds of thoughts if you're not practicing mindfulness. Mindfulness is awareness of mind. More specifically, the Buddha teaches something called the 4 foundations of mindfulness, which I'll teach you at the end of today's class because I've already taught it as part of this program. There's something called the 4 foundations of mindfulness that you're going to need to know in order to really transform the mind. But when you're first starting out on the path, you're kind of just practicing awareness of mind. And that meditation that we just did is actually helping you to be able to accomplish the development of awareness of mind, or mindfulness. Because when you're focused on the breath and the mind moves off the breath, you become aware of that your mind has moved. And now you're developing the skill or the ability to observe your mind and notice when it's moving around, right? So when your mind starts to be angry or frustrated or agitated or conceited or hateful, if you're practicing and training your mind regularly on a regular basis, you'll be able to notice that. So you're going to need to practice this mindfulness at all times, more specifically the 4 foundations of mindfulness. But then as you're practicing this mindfulness, if you notice that your mind is sluggish or dull or lethargic or something like this, that's where you practice these next 3 factors. Because if your mind is sluggish or dull or lethargic or complacent, the way that you bring it up out of that complacency and bring it to the middle where it can be peaceful and joyful, because over here in this dullness, lethargic condition, you're not comfortable. You don't feel good. You're just kind of sitting around, blah, like feeling like, dull and lethargic. You can lift your mind up out of that. If you're practicing mindfulness and awareness of mind and you see your mind is sluggish, you can apply the enlightenment factor of investigation, energy, and joy, and this is going to lift your mind up out of that dull and lethargic state. You don't have to just deal with that. You don't have to just sit around and feel dull and mundane throughout your day. You can apply the effort to lift the mind up out of that. What the enlightenment factor of investigation is where you have dedicated examination and exploration investigation of the teachings, where you have a keen interest in studying the teachings of the Buddha, because the mind's not going to be interested in that. When your mind's dull and lethargic and complacent, you're going to be like, I'm not going to do my meditation. Or, I'm not going to pick up that book. I'm not going to go to the temple. No, I don't want to do that. I just want to sit here and do nothing, right? So you need to apply the effort to bring the mind in the other direction, because if you allow it to sit down there in the complacency, it's just going to stay there. You need to lift it up out of that and bring it towards the middle. And it's investigation of the teachings that's going to help you to do that. So reading books, meditating, coming to the temple, talking with your teacher, talking with other community members, this is what's going to help you to lift the mind up through the enlightenment factor of investigation. As you're investigating and examining the teachings of the Buddha, you're going to notice this energy kind of spring up in the mind, where you have this effort, determination, ambition, initiative, this vigor and this vitality to really apply your effort towards learning and practicing, because you've been investigating the teachings. And the teachings of the Buddha are going to help you to be able to see exactly how to transform your mind. Because if you experience these feelings like anger, sadness, frustration, and others, there's answers out there for you. There's solutions to all of this. There's solutions to the resentment and the anger and the frustration. But if you're not investigating the teachings and your mind's over here, dull and lethargic, you're never going to be able to figure that out. But as you investigate his teachings and you examine them and you see that there are solutions, that's where this energy springs up. It's like, oh, wow, there's actually solutions for this. I don't have to feel like this for the rest of my life. And then that's where the joy starts coming into the mind, where you start having this unconditioned gladness, this cheerfulness comes into the mind, because you realize that there's an actual solution, that you don't have to just sit here and feel dull and mundane. You can lift the mind up into the middle. But then with your mindfulness, or this awareness of mind, you're going to notice times where your mind's excited and overactive. It's maybe bouncing off the walls. And when you're noticing that, your mind's not in the middle. So you're going to need to bring the mind into the middle. And that's where these next three come in, is the tranquility, the concentration, and the equanimity. These are going to help calm the mind down and bring it to the middle. Because if you allow the mind to kind of be, up here in the excited state, bouncing around, it's just going to keep firing and doing that. And then when it's not doing that, it's going to swing over here to the other side, where it's dull and lethargic and feeling mundane. So you're not interested in living in either two of those extremes. So you like to bring the mind to the middle, no longer allowing the mind to fire that way. So when you're noticing the mind is overactive or restless or bouncing off the walls, excited, things like that, you can calm the mind down and bring it to the middle. There's this tranquility. You can arise this tranquility in the mind, where the mind can be relaxed, steady, stable, and peaceful, this stillness in the mind. Then you can apply this concentration, which is focus or singleness of mind, where you apply attention to just a single object. Then you can bring in the equanimity, which is mental composure, calmness, evenness of temper, especially in a difficult situation. So let me give you an example of this. Let's just say you got a phone call that your mom has been in a terrible car accident and she's being rushed to the hospital in the back of an ambulance. When you get that information, your mind might go up into this, whoa, what's going on with mom? Oh my goodness, oh my goodness, oh my goodness. Well, if you didn't know these teachings, you might grab your car keys, jump in your car, bolt across town, end up getting into a car accident yourself and be in the hospital right next to her. Right? Like, you're not helping mom in that situation. But if you know these teachings and you have this mindfulness or awareness of mind and you get this information and you notice your mind's like, oh my goodness, mom, you're like, hold on a second. Tranquility, concentration, equanimity, calmness, composure. Now, rushing across town isn't going to help mom whatsoever. Let me just get my car keys. Let me calmly make my way to the hospital so that when I show up, I can talk to the doctors and nurses, understand what's going on, and then I can make some wise decisions that's going to help mom. Racing across town isn't going to help mom. Mom's in the back of an ambulance with emergency medical technicians. She's about to arrive to a hospital with sophisticated equipment and people that are professionals and trained to be able to help her. She's in the best place she could be. There's nothing about me running across town that's going to help her in this situation. So let me just calm down. Let me just gradually make my way to the hospital, and now the mind will be in a better state that I can talk to the doctors and nurses and find out what's going on, and then I can help her by making some wise decisions that's going to help her, right? So this is where these kinds of things help out, is that if you just allow your mind to fire in that excited state, that overactive state, you're not actually helping yourself, and you're not helping mom either. But then the same thing is if you're dull and lethargic and complacent and you're lacking motivation and enthusiasm and ambition, you're not helping yourself in that situation either, because you're just sitting around feeling mundane. So you'd like to lift the mind up and bring it to the middle so you can make wise decisions to move your life forward, whether it's getting a new job, whether it's going out and spending time in a social situation with friends, whether it's applying your effort in your profession or whatever it is, whether it's learning a new skill or something like this. You're not interested in being dull and lethargic and just sitting around like a lump on a log. You'd like to lift your mind up and bring it to the middle so you can move your life forward and actively get involved in the community, for example. So in the middle, that's where the peacefulness is. That's where the joy is. That's where you can make your life and move it forward. Whereas if you're dull and lethargic, or if you're in this excited state, it's not helping you whatsoever. And oftentimes people are chasing that excited state, but it's temporary. It's just going to fade away. And when it fades away, your mind's going to be all the way over here, swinging to the other side. So these are the 7 factors of enlightenment to go in and fine-tune the mind. You need to be practicing mindfulness or awareness of mind at all times, to be observant of the mind and be aware. When is it sluggish? And when it's sluggish, lift it up with investigation, energy, and joy, applying the effort and energy to do that. And then when you're noticing it's overactive, apply the tranquility, the concentration, and the equanimity to calm the mind down and bring it to the middle. So I'm going to pause here and see if you guys have any questions on the 7 factors of enlightenment. If you guys have questions here at the temple, if you guys could use the microphones here in the middle of the room in the white bowl, just get a microphone, press the gray button. You're going to see the lights come on, and just hold it up to your chin, and we'll be able to hear you here at the temple, and they'll be able to hear you online. If you speak here without a microphone, they won't be able to hear you online. And for those of you guys that are online, if you guys would like to ask a question, you can put that into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, or you can raise your hand in Zoom electronically, and then I'll see that, and you can unmute your microphone and ask any questions that you like. And for those of you guys that might get microphones here, if you could just keep it with you, because you might have more than one question, or someone around you might have a question, and you can just share your microphone. And then when you're not using it, if you could turn it off, that way we won't get any feedback through the speakers. So is there anybody here, anybody online that has any questions about the 7 factors of enlightenment? I'm going to check online here, see if we have any questions. Mike, I see your question there about chanting. You're asking about Om. That's actually not something that the Buddha taught, so that's why we don't chant the Om, but you might have been exposed to that in different environments that you've been in, but it's not from the Buddha. Okay, so I don't see any questions anywhere. Okay, so now we're going to go into the 5 hindrances. I'm going to explain to you guys what each one of these are and how to actually solve it with the solutions. So this first one is called sensual desire. This is one of the pollutions or the taints or the defilements that the Buddha discovered in the mind. This is the underlying thing that's causing the mind to experience discontentedness. All your anger, your sadness, your frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy, it's all coming from this. All those discontent feelings, it's all coming from sensual desire. What sensual desire is where the mind is longing and yearning through your eyes, the ears, the nose, the tongue, the body, and the mind itself, wanting things to be permanently agreeable. And when you get what you want or what you expect, you get happy. You get pleasant feelings like happiness, excited, elated, or thrill or euphoria. But when you have that sensual desire and you want things to be permanently agreeable, when you have contact with the disagreeable, you get angry or frustrated or some other painful feeling, right? So if the mind is at a stoplight and there's somebody that pulls up to you with some music and you're like, wow, that's my jam. All right, let's dance. Let's have a good time, right? It's like, whoa, partying, let's party, right? You're hearing this music because you're hearing something through the ear. You're hearing a sound that is agreeable to you. Maybe it's hip hop, maybe it's rap, maybe it's heavy metal, maybe it's instrumental, maybe it's country music, who knows? Whatever it is that you're hearing, wow, you find that to be agreeable and you're so happy and excited. But now you pull up to the next traffic light and somebody else pulls up with a different type of music, and you find this sound to be disagreeable. And now you're frustrated, you're angry or annoyed. It's not that person that's causing it. And it's not the music that's causing it. What's causing it is your mind has sensual desire. You're craving, you're longing, you're yearning, wanting things to be permanently agreeable. And you don't live in a world that's set up that way. You aren't going to experience permanently agreeable contact. So as long as you have sensual desire in your mind, you're going to sometimes be happy and excited, and then other times you're going to be sad or frustrated or agitated or annoyed. Your mind's going to be going up and down or up and down. So say, for example, you're walking down the street and you see a young child holding the hand of their parent. And you're like, oh, that's so beautiful. Look at that young child walking so politely with their parent. Oh, that's so heartwarming. That's so loving, right? And now maybe you get so excited, you get these pleasant feelings, right? But now you turn the corner and you see a parent slap their child across the face. Oh, you might find this to be disagreeable. And now you're angry with that. You're frustrated. This is because of sensual desire. The mind is wanting things to be permanently agreeable. We're not talking about what's wise or unwise in this situation, because I don't suggest that it's wise to slap a child across the face or hit anybody whatsoever. That's unwise, and that's why the Buddha teaches that it's unwise to do those things, and that we don't do those things. But nonetheless, not everybody in the world is practicing these teachings. That's not what you're going to experience. You're going to experience impermanence, where things are constantly changing, right? So let's use another example, say through the nose. Right? Let's just say you're walking down the street and you walk past a flower shop and you smell this amazing odor coming out of the flower shop, and you're like, oh my goodness, that smells so amazing, right? And you get so excited about that. But now you walk a few more steps and you get a whiff of the sewer. Oh, you might be repulsed by that. That's your sensual desire. The mind is holding on. It's wanting permanently agreeable contact through all these sense spaces. And we could go through each one of them. The tongue, right? There's certain foods that you like and you find agreeable, and there's certain foods that you dislike and you find them disagreeable and you push those away. The body, there are certain physical objects that touch the body, maybe certain fabrics or something like that you find agreeable, and certain ones that are disagreeable. And then there's the mind itself. The Buddha considers this to be a sense base, right? So say you're in the present moment, but you're thinking about something in the past, something very pleasurable that's happened in your past. And now you get all these excited feelings because you're remembering that really pleasant thing that happened in the past. But you could also be thinking about things in the past that were maybe painful. Maybe if we were abused as a child, maybe we were physically abused or sexually abused or something like this. And now that's very painful for you to think about. So there hasn't been any contact through the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, the body, but the mind is experiencing this discontentedness because it's having thoughts of things in the past or in the future that is now causing the mind to be discontent, because it's seeing those thoughts as either agreeable or disagreeable. And this is called sensual desire, where the mind is longing, yearning, wanting, expecting everything to be permanently agreeable. And if you get what you want, you get pleasant feelings like happiness, excitement, elation. But if you don't get what you want, you get those painful feelings like anger, sadness, frustration, and others. And now when that is arising in your mind, with a lack of wisdom, you will falsely attribute those feelings to something external. You will think this person or this situation is causing your mind to be upset or frustrated, when in reality, it's within your own mind. It's the sensual desire. So now the mind becomes unskillful, that you might think mom or dad are causing you to be angry, or your brothers or sisters, or your boss or your coworkers. And what the mind will typically do with this lack of wisdom is it will try to push this person away. You might have done that, where you've pushed people out of your life, or you've pushed the situation out of your life, where you've ended relationships because you firmly believed that this person was causing you to be angry. So you might have pushed them away out of your life. But you can see that that didn't solve the problem, because you still get angry. You still get frustrated. If they were the ones who were causing you to be angry, when you push them out of your life, you wouldn't be angry anymore. Or you might push the situation away. And you can see you still get annoyed, you still get frustrated because you haven't solved the underlying problem, which is the central desire. Or the other thing you'll do if you're not pushing people away when that anger is arising is you might be bitter and harsh and hostile towards them through your intentions, your speech, or your actions. It's almost like an animal growling and roaring. It's like, "Rrr." It's like, you're not meeting my central desires. You're not giving me what I want. I'm going to try to fear you into doing things my way. So you might be bitter and harsh and hostile towards people through your intentions, your speech, and your actions. And now this creates disharmony in your relationships because people aren't interested in being around that harshness and bitterness, and they might choose to leave out of your life. Or the third thing you might do when you don't understand this is you might put your expectations on people. You might try to control them or force them to do things your way. There might be people doing that to you where they're trying to force you or control you to do things their way, right? This is the mind trying to get its central desire fulfilled. The mind thinks if I can just get things my way, everything will be perfect. So the mind puts expectations on people and try to control them to do things your way. And this is the mind trying to get these things to be agreeable because it wants this permanently agreeable contact. So this central desire is plaguing the mind. It's polluting the mind. And as long as you're experiencing this, as long as you have this in your mind, in some cases, you're going to get what you want and you're going to get pleasant feelings. In other situations, you're not going to get what you want and you're going to get painful feelings. So as long as this is in your mind, it's going to hinder you from experiencing permanent peace or permanent joy because you can only be happy when you get things your way. That's the way that the mind functions with its central desire. That if the weather is this, if my mom and dad do this, if my boss does this, if my bank account is this, then I'll be happy. But if those things aren't true, I'm going to be frustrated or agitated or annoyed. So that your ability to be happy becomes less and less and less and less as your central desire increases. Right? Sometimes people think if you're rich and wealthy or if you're a famous celebrity, that you'll be happy and you'll have a happy life. You can see that this isn't true. It's not external things that's going to create happiness. Because if this was true, there would be no such thing as a rich, wealthy celebrity committing suicide, right? There's rich, wealthy people that commit suicide because they're not happy, right? So it's not money and wealth and fame that's going to produce happiness. That's just temporary. Because if you're basing your inner feelings on some external thing, you can only be happy when you have that thing. So maybe at the beginning of your career, when you're first becoming rich and wealthy, you're so happy. But then on the downside of that, where your career is starting to fade and you're not as famous anymore, and you're not as rich or wealthy perhaps anymore, now somebody can be lonely and bored and feel sad and miserable, and they might end up taking their life, right? So it's not money and wealth that's going to produce happiness. It's not external things. But this is what the mind thinks because of its lack of wisdom of what's going on here. So as long as there's central desire, the wants and expectations are growing and growing and growing in your mind, the amount of happiness you can have becomes less and less and less because those conditions being met becomes harder and harder. So the Buddha is teaching you to eliminate this central desire where your mind's not chasing and chasing and chasing. You might be chasing more shoes, more money, more jewelry. And it's not that you can't have these things because you can surely have these things in your life. You're going to need these things, but it's a matter of chasing after it and forming your inner feelings on it, whether you have it or not, right? So if I was walking through the mall and I saw in the window a brand new pair of shoes and I got so excited about this brand new pair of shoes and I want to rush into the shoe store and get this brand new pair of shoes, well, if they have my size and I can buy them, I'll be so happy, right? But that happiness is going to fade because ultimately those shoes are going to get old, they're going to get stolen, they're going to get destroyed, damaged, whatever, and that happiness is going to fade. But if I go into the shoe store so excited to get that brand new pair of shoes and they don't have my shoe size, you'll be frustrated, you'll be annoyed. This is the central desire. So by you understanding the middle way, where you're not chasing after things, but you're also not over here where you're dull and lethargic and not pursuing anything at all, you can come to the middle where you're making wise decisions to pursue your needs. where you're walking forward to develop your career. You're maybe pursuing increased levels of income. Maybe you're purchasing supplies that you need in order to help you in your day-to-day life, but you're not chasing them and you're not forming your inner feelings on whether you have that thing or not. That's what central desire is going to make you want to do, which is chase after things. And then if you get it, you're happy. And if you don't get it, you'll be sad or frustrated. So you can eliminate this central desire through training the mind to eliminate craving, desire, attachment. That's what we call in a kind of a layman's terms, when we're talking about central desire, we're talking about craving, desire, attachment, this wants or expectations, this longing, this yearning, this chasing after things and grabbing onto it and wanting it to be permanent. If you can think about that boyfriend or girlfriend that you guys were with when you first got together, you were probably so happy and excited. But then over time, as you got angry and frustrated in that relationship, you broke up. And then when you broke up, you might have been really angry. You might have been really frustrated. You might have been lonely or bored when you were away from this person. That's because your mind was holding on. That's what the craving does, is it holds on and it wants this person to be permanent. But at some point, your mind let go. You were like, you know what? If he wants to be with some other person, so be it. And you let go. And that's where your mind regained its peacefulness and its joy. Or if she wants to move to another part of the world, so be it. And your mind let go. And when you let go, that's when your mind regained its peacefulness. So as long as your mind's holding on, you can't get to peacefulness because it's forming its inner feelings based on all these external things. So this breathing mindfulness meditation and the generosity is training your mind to let go. So that meditation we just did where you're focused on the breath and the mind moves off the breath and you're letting go. If you had to do that 10, 15, 20 times during your meditation where you had to let go and come back to the breath, this is very good for you because your mind doesn't want to let go, right? It wants to hold on. It's holding on to so many things, wanting it to be permanent. But if you do this meditation consistently, the way that I teach it is 2 or 3 times a day, building up to this level of frequency where you can build up to about 30 minutes a session. And now that might sound like a lot, but as you gradually develop this over 6 months, a year, 2 years, you can gradually build up where you're doing 2 or 3 meditations a day for 30 minutes. And you'll notice that the mind will be able to let go. So now in day-to-day life, when you're noticing the anger starting to arise, you can let go, right? But if you haven't trained your mind to let go with the meditation, you won't actually be able to do that. So this breathing mindfulness meditation isn't to eliminate your thoughts. It's to train your mind to let go. And then eventually, if you do that enough, your mind won't ever have anger arise because you've eliminated the causes and conditions that are producing it. And then the Buddha also taught generosity. Generosity is giving and sharing without any expectation of anything in return, such as your time, your effort, your energy, and your resources. Because when you have craving, when you have sensual desire, where you want everything to be permanently pleasing and agreeable to yourself, you'll tend to hold on to things very tightly and you'll be somewhat selfish. You'll be disinterested in sharing with other people. You'll kind of hoard your food, you'll kind of hoard your money, you'll hoard your clothes and your jewelry and stuff like this, and you'll hold on to it really tight. But when you start sharing it with other people, you're understanding that things aren't going to be permanently satisfying for you, and you can train your mind to let go. So if you pull your clothes out of the washing machine or the dryer and you notice that it's ripped or torn and you get frustrated, you can see that you're attached to your clothing. You want this clothing to be permanent, when in reality, it's not permanent. It is impermanent. So in that situation, you might decide to give away some of your clothing. Or if you're noticing that you're attached to money and you're holding on to money, you might decide to donate some money. What you're going to notice with generosity is your frequency is more important than the amount, right? So if you're going to donate your time, effort, energy, or resources, let's just say you're going to donate $500 once a year to an orphanage. It would be better to do $1 a day because your mind has to more frequently let go. If you only do this once a year, that means your mind's only letting go once a year. Whereas if you're having to let go every single day, this is going to be better for your mind. So this is why in Thailand, you see in a lot of stores and restaurants, they'll have donation boxes everywhere. So you can drop like 10 baht or 20 baht or whatever it is that you'd like to put into a donation box. It trains your mind to let go, let go, let go. And you can do that frequently throughout your day. But you need to be able to make sure you're practicing generosity without any expectation of anything in return. So even if you're walking into a store and there's someone behind you, you could hold the door for them, right? But if you're standing there with the expectation that they will say thank you and they don't say thank you, you'll be frustrated when they walk through the door, right? Your mind is causing that because you have a craving, you have an expectation, you want something from this person. So if you're practicing generosity, you need to do it without any expectation of anything in return, not even a thank you, right? Because when you walk through the door and you see someone standing there, you might say thank you, right? But other people, when they walk through the door, they don't even see you standing there, right? They're thinking about what they want out of that store. They don't even see you standing there perhaps, right? So if you're going to hold the door, and you're going to practice generosity in any way, the purpose of generosity is to enhance the quality of your mind. That's the goal of generosity. And it's going to train your mind to let go so that you don't want things to be permanently agreeable with this central desire. When your mind's not getting its central desires fulfilled, it will have ill will. This anger, this hatred, this bitterness, aggressiveness, resentment, this hostility, right? This will come out through your intentions, your speech, and your actions. And this is going to damage your relationships. It already has been damaging your relationships, right? And you can actually clean this up. The way that you clean this up is through practicing loving kindness meditation. This is a different form of meditation, and I teach this as part of this particular programs and courses and retreats that I share. It actually rewires your mind to be loving and kind with all people around you. It's not instantaneous. It's not like one day you do it, you're magically going to be loving and kind, right? But as you gradually wear away your anger and your hatred and your ill will within your own mind and all the lesser versions like frustration, agitation, and annoyance, you can get to the point where you're loving and kind with all the people around you. And there's this meditation that essentially rewires your mind. Because what loving kindness is where you have a genuine interest in seeing all beings be well. Not only other beings, but this being too. Because you might have a negative inner talk, like inner dialogue, this negative self-talk where you're degrading and diminishing yourself. And that's not going to help you. So this loving kindness meditation, not only will it help you to be loving and kind to others, but it'll help you be loving and kind to this being too. It'll wear away that inner dialogue where you're degrading and diminishing yourself. And you can have a more uplifting thought towards yourself. So this loving kindness meditation is like filling up your gas tank so that then you go out into the world and you can be loving and kind through your intentions, your speech, and your actions. That's where the real transformation is happening. The meditation is helpful and it's beneficial. You're going to need the meditation, but you need to go out into the world and be loving and kind with people. If you're only meditating and you're not applying the effort to be loving and kind in your day-to-day interactions, then you're not fully transforming your mind. Because oftentimes people, when they're in relationships, they like certain people and then they dislike other people. They might even hate that person, right? It's important for you to understand that any kind of hatred or even the slightest dislike that you're having in your mind, it's actually coming from your own mind. It's not coming from that other person. You have certain expectations of that person. You want that person to be a certain way. Because of your sensual desire, you're craving and longing, yearning for everybody to be a certain way. The mind's craving this permanence, but you live in an impermanent world. So as long as you go out into the world expecting everybody to be a certain way, when they meet your expectations, you will like them. But when they don't meet your expectations, you will dislike them. And not everybody's going to meet your expectations because it's only you that does things the way that you do them. So as long as you hold on to this central desire, it's only a matter of time if someone doesn't meet your expectations and now you dislike them, or you have anger, hatred towards them. You can get to a point where you have love and kindness for everybody, understanding that people are different. Not everybody's the same. And if we did live in that world where everybody was the same, wouldn't that be the most boring world that you ever lived in? Isn't it wonderful to have different types of people in the world that do things in different ways? Yeah, it's really wonderful, right? Like if we actually lived in a world where everyone did things our way, that would be kind of like a miserable world, wouldn't it? Because we wouldn't learn anything new from anybody, right? So there's different people in the world that do things differently. But when you want and expect things to be a certain way, you'll dislike people who don't do things your way, right? And this is where the ill will come out through your intention, speech, and actions. But you can transform that with loving kindness meditation and then practicing loving kindness through your intention, speech, and actions in your day-to-day life. Then there's something called complacency. This is where the mind is dull, lethargic, it's lacking motivation. In the old translations that you'll see that people provide of the teachings of the Buddha, they call this sloth and torpor. It's a really old word, but I've updated this to use the word complacency. That's what the Buddha is talking about here. This dullness, this lethargic condition where you're lacking motivation and enthusiasm. And if you're having complacency, you're over here feeling dull and lethargic, it doesn't feel good. It's like, you don't really kind of like it. You're feeling mundane and you just don't feel good. It's just like, just sitting on the sofa, not doing anything. Well, there's a solution for that. And we've already talked about it. It's practicing the Enlightenment factors of investigation, energy, and joy. That's what's going to uplift the mind and bring it out of that dull, sluggish state. You're going to need your mindfulness or awareness of mind to be able to help you know that your mind is being complacent. But then you're going to need to apply the effort through the Enlightenment factor of investigation to investigate the teachings of the Buddha, apply the energy, which is the vigor, the vitality, the enthusiasm, the ambition, the initiative to do something. And then this is where the joy is rising up in the mind. It's helpful to catch complacency as early as possible, because if you sit around and you're kind of not paying attention to your mind and you allow this complacency to move in and set up camp inside your mind, if it's like 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, you've been complacent sitting around on the sofa, it's a lot harder to lift the mind out of that. Whereas if you're practicing mindfulness and you can notice the first few hours, the first day or two, that your mind's kind of dull and lethargic, you can really bring it up out of that a lot easier because the complacency hasn't set in yet. So that's why the Buddha teaches you to practice mindfulness or awareness of mind, so that when the mind starts being dull and lethargic, you can catch it as soon as possible and lift the mind out of that, because it'll be much easier than if you allow the mind to sit around for many weeks or months. So do you guys have any questions on any of these three here? Central desire, ill will, and complacency? Yeah, if you guys could get a mic, help yourself. There's multiple mics there. And then remember, for those of you guys online, you can put your questions into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom in the comment section. Or in Zoom, you can electronically raise your hand, unmute your mic, and then ask any and all questions that you like. So please, go ahead.
Want me to stand up?
No, you're fine. Whatever you'd like to do. There's no rules here.
Cool. My question is in regards to the loving kindness meditation. So I've always thought that the power of love inside, there's a lot of power to it as well. But after listening to some teachers, you think that love is also, it's an emotion, and sometimes emotions just seem to be reactions from the mind, So when you say loving kindness meditation, what exactly is that meditation? Is it something where you focus on a feeling in your chest, or what is it exactly?
Sure, let's talk about this. So this is one of the misunderstandings that people have, is love is not a feeling. Love is not an emotion. This is something that people misunderstand. A feeling will arise, it will change, and then it will fade away. That's what a feeling or an emotion does, because it's impermanent. It arises, it changes, and fades away. When you get to true love, love is actually unconditional. It is permanent. It's a mental state that you're cultivating. What people think is love in the unenlightened state is they will say, they'll meet somebody, this person maybe is physically attractive, maybe they have a certain financial background, certain social status, or what have you, maybe intellectually they're attracted to this person, and they'll spend some time with this person, and they will say, I've fallen in love with you. Now it's like, oh, I love you too. Well, we're now in love. We have fallen in love, right? And now, because I love you, I want you to be with me because you make me happy. right? And now as time goes on, things get angry and disgruntled, and then eventually someone might say, I don't love you anymore. I have fallen out of love with you. We need to end our relationship. This isn't actually love. There might have been love in there, but that wasn't the actual love that I was just talking about, because you can't fall in love and fall out of love with people when you understand what true love is. What's really happening here is this person has certain cravings, desires, attachments, wants, and expectations. And at the beginning of the relationship, this person was meeting those expectations. They were meeting their wants. And when they were doing everything my way, when they were meeting my expectations, we say, I love you. Therefore, I want you to be with me because you make me happy. It's all about me, right? And now over time, this person stops doing things my way. They're not meeting my expectations anymore. And now I say, I don't love you anymore. I've fallen out of love with you. So during this period of time where we were in love, I'll act like I love you. I'll function like I love you. I'll do things the way that someone that loves you would do. But as soon as you stop doing things my way, I don't love you anymore. And I'm going to stop being loving to you. I'm going to be angry and bitter and harsh towards you. This isn't actual love. This is craving, desire, attachment. It's all about me. It's all about my selfishness and what I want. I want you to be this way. And as long as you're that way, I'll act like I love you. I'll function like I love you. But as soon as you stop doing things my way, all bets are off. I don't love you anymore. So this isn't actual love. This is craving, desire, attachment. This is that central desire masquerading as love. And this is why someone says they fall in love or they fall out of love. And one of the challenges is pretty much all the love songs that you hear, they're actually talking about this. They're talking about this attachment. Like if you listen to music, it's like, oh, I can't go on without you. If you leave me, I'll feel miserable. My life won't be complete without you. This isn't love. This is attachment, meaning my feelings are attached to you. If I don't have you in my life, I can't be happy. That's attachment, right? But there's something called true love, which is unconditional love, that you don't fall in love and you don't fall out of love. This person didn't have to earn your love. So therefore, there's nothing they can do for you to fall out of love with them, right? So it's called unconditional love. It's not, I love you, therefore I want you to be with me because you make me happy. It's, I love you, therefore I would like to see you be well. And I'm here to support you. I'm here to help you. I'm here to encourage you, but I don't want anything from you. I don't expect anything from you. I love you as you are. I love you unconditionally. So no matter what you do, I love you. You sit on the ground and talk on the microphone, I love you. I have a genuine interest in seeing you be well. You stand up and decide that you'd like to stand up and talk like you were suggesting. I still love you, right? I don't have any expectation of how you should or shouldn't be. You haven't earned my love, so therefore there's nothing you could do for me to stop loving you. So even though my mom is already passed away, if you killed my mother, I can still love you. I don't agree with the choice and decision that you made, but I still love you, meaning I have a genuine interest in seeing you be well. That's what true love is, a genuine interest in seeing you be well. And that's unconditional. That's free of my expectations, where what we tend to do in this relationship where craving, desire, attachment is masquerading as love, we put expectations on each other and try to control each other to do things my way. When you're practicing true love, you're not putting expectations on anybody. You're not trying to force them or control them to do things your way, right? And you can maintain your contentedness and joy regardless. So you can disagree with someone's choices and decisions while still loving the person, right? Well, sometimes we think that we can only love someone if we agree with their choices and decisions. Well, if you can only love people who you agree with their choices and decisions, you're only ever going to be able to love one person in the world, because there's only one person in the world that makes decisions exactly the same way as you. Do you know who that person is? It's you. Right? You're the only person who makes decisions that way. So if you can only love someone who makes decisions the way you make them, you're only ever going to be able to love one person. And you might even find that hard to do sometimes. You might have trouble loving yourself, right? So what you got to be able to do is separate the choices and decisions somebody makes from the person themselves, that you can love the person, meaning have a genuine interest in seeing them be well, realizing you're going to disagree with their choices and decisions. So I've never met any child that has ever agreed with 100% of the decisions their parents have made. Is there anybody here that has agreed with their parents' decisions 100% of the time? Nobody? Man, I'm still on this journey to find somebody that has agreed with every single decision their parent made, right? None of us have agreed with 100% of the decisions our parents made because they're a different person. But we can still love our parents. We can love them as a person, understanding that we have a genuine interest in seeing them be well, but we disagree with some of the choices or decisions that they make, right? And that's true love, where you love them unconditionally, where you're not putting your expectations on them. So what this meditation does is it helps you to get closer and closer to that, where you don't want anything or expect anything from the person. What you do is you sit in meditation and you do affirmations in your mind where you think things like, may mom be peaceful. May mom be safe. May mom be well. May mom be free of discontentedness. What you're doing is you're transforming your mind where you're not having bitterness and harshness and hostility towards people in your life or people that are in your past, because you might have boyfriends or girlfriends that you're still holding on to anger and resentment towards, or you might have an ex-boss or something like this. And as long as you're holding on to this anger and this resentment, it's only causing harm to your own mind. Sometimes people think by holding on to anger, you're getting back at the other person, right? But this is like holding on to a hot coal in your hand and trying to burn somebody else. The only person getting burned is you. So this meditation essentially rewires your mind by doing these affirmations so that now when you're spending time with people, you can be loving and kind to those individuals. Where, like, for example, when I was growing up, I had a lot of resentment towards my mom because I didn't know these teachings and I disagreed with many of the things that she did during my childhood. So whenever me and mom were around each other, we exploded into a fight and argument. It was like fireworks, right? Well, when I started doing this meditation, I started to think of mom in a more loving and kind way, so that now in the past where we would explode into fireworks, now when I was around her, I'd be loving and kind. And that's what transformed our relationship, right? Where by the time she died, there was no hostility or bitterness in our relationship whatsoever. So we had all these logs. We had like this log jam of anger and hostility and resentment and expectations and wants. And when I started pulling those things out, everything in our relationship started to flow better. So what this meditation is doing is transforming your mind to think more loving and kindly of the people around you, so that then when you go out into the world, through your intentions, your speech, and your actions, you can be more loving and kind. Because as long as you go out into the world thinking those painful feelings that you're experiencing are coming from other people, you might feel justified in your anger and your frustration towards them. So when I'd be angry and bitter and harsh with mom, I would think to a certain degree, she deserves it, right? Because she's not meeting my expectations. She's not doing what I want. But as long as you keep doing that, you'll keep putting out anger and bitterness and hostility, and it'll keep coming back to you. But when you do this meditation and you rewire your mind, you can be loving and kind around these people. And now as you put love and kindness out into the world, over time, it'll transform your mind and it'll transform your relationships. And in some situations, you'll need to step away from the relationship, but there'll be some relationships that you're more committed to. And by doing this meditation and going out into the world, you'll transform your mind and transform your life, where you'll have all your relationships will be harmonious. Mm-hmm. So does that answer your question? Oh, okay. If you could use the mic, then the people online will be able to hear you. Yeah, and by the way, it's not about whether you agree or not. It's about this is what the teachings are, and it 100% works. But you'll just have to be able to see that for yourself if that's something that you decide that you would like to do.
Well, I vibe with your answer then, we'll put it that way.
Okay, good.
But yeah, I always thought that the real universal love is, it's not what we use quite with relationships with partners or what like that. It's like you said, you give it to everybody and whatnot. I'm curious about the whole affirmation thing, to do these types of meditations, but then I started thinking that maybe because they're still affirmations, they're still the mind. So they're still, you're using words, you're not silencing the mind. But if you say you do use affirmations, I find that quite interesting.
Yeah, the affirmations are essentially within your own mind to rewire your own mind. It's not to change other people, or it's not to change anything about the world. It's to change your own mind. Because if, like, for example, in my case, when I had bitterness and harshness within my mind towards my mom, right? So when I was around her, that bitterness and harshness would come out through my intentions, speech, and actions. But then when I started doing this meditation, may mom be peaceful. May mom be safe. May mom be well. May mom be free of discontentness. And you're doing this every single day and training your mind this way with various groups of people within your own mind. Now, when I was around mom, instead of that bitterness and harshness coming out, it was this love, because I was interested in seeing her be well. And this harshness that I was giving to her in the past, it didn't fit into this new scenario that the mind now had, which is I was interested in seeing mom be well. So the affirmations aren't to change anything about mom or about the world. It's about changing your own mind and rewiring your mind so you can be more loving and kind through your intentions, speech, and actions. Yeah, you're welcome.
I work in politics and human rights defense. And of course, there are a lot of feelings involved when you work in this field. When I see the toll of human suffering and freedom's repressions, etc. So when you spoke about sensual desire, I feel very conflicted because sometimes feelings such as anger, I think that they can spark change and they can move people for political change. And well, also that's my job, to impulse and fuel those efforts for political change. So I don't know how to phrase this question, but I just wanted to ask more regarding sensual desire and this passion that generates politics, especially because that is what I do for a living.
Yeah. So what you currently think now is that somehow the anger is helpful. And you're not the only one who's ever thought this way. But when you look at this more closely, you can see that when your mind's angry, it's all shaken up, it's all unstable, it's all unsteady, and it leads to unwise decision making, right? So what the Buddha is guiding you to be able to do is get to a point where your mind can be calm and peaceful and joyful all the time, no matter what's happening around you. And you can implement change and improvement in your field or your profession or your personal life without the anger. You don't need the anger. In fact, the anger is getting in the way of being able to make wise decisions, because when you're angry and frustrated and you got steam coming out of your ears, you'll make unwise decisions, and it's going to produce unwholesome results, or what we refer to as unwholesome gamma, the results of your decisions. So when you make decisions wisely, it'll produce wholesome results or wholesome gamma. But when you make decisions unwisely, it'll produce unwholesome results or unwholesome gamma. And when your mind's uncalm and shaken up, you won't have mindfulness. You won't have awareness of your mind. And when you don't have awareness of your mind, you won't have concentration. And when you don't have concentration, you can't access your wisdom. So that means whatever decisions you're putting out into the world, they're going to produce unwholesome results. So when you get rid of the anger and the bitterness or the harshness or the frustration and agitation and annoyance, now your mind's calm. You can think through the challenge that you're experiencing. You can think through, what is it that I'm trying to move towards? Is it that I'm trying to accomplish here in this particular goal? And now I can apply wise decision making behind it in order to move it forward. But putting the anger into it, it just makes it really messy and confusing for everyone, because they're not able to access wisdom and make wise decisions. They're just kind of making a snap and quick decision, and it's not a lasting, sustainable, beneficial decision because it's producing unwholesome results. Did I see another mic? I think Amen. You're good? Okay. Looks like we have a question coming in online as well. Let's see here. Okay. So we actually have a few questions here. Mike is saying, how does one balance wanting to love and still feeling awkward with someone who she had bad quarrels in the past? On the other hand, could time and distance kind of improve this? So, if you're feeling awkward around anybody whatsoever, that's because of the central desire. The central desire is wanting and expecting things to be a certain way. And when they're not that way, the mind's going to feel uncomfortable or discontent, what we call discontentedness. So what you need to do is focus on your own mind and eliminating the craving and the expectation of wanting things to be a certain way. And that is going to ultimately get to a point where you're comfortable in all situations. What you're talking about in terms of distancing yourself from the person, that can help for a period of time. And when we say distancing, it means that you don't spend as much time with that person. That's going to help train your mind to let go. But ultimately, when you let go of your cravings, desires, attachments, you can spend time around everybody and anybody and feel perfectly comfortable. You won't need to, distance yourself from people, because just going away from somebody isn't going to solve the problem. You need to also be training your mind with the breathing mindfulness meditation, the generosity, and all the other steps on the Eightfold Path. That's what's ultimately going to transform your mind. So if you just choose to go away from people and that's it, you haven't really transformed your mind in that situation. So you still need to be applying the Eightfold Path and all these other teachings to be able to train your mind to let go of its cravings and wanting people and expecting people to be a certain way. And that's where now you'll feel comfortable being around people. Okay, so now we have something coming in from Melody. She says, I feel especially hard to love someone genuinely, wish him or her well, who has hurt me, for example, who killed my mom. So in that situation, that person hasn't hurt you. So if somebody killed my mother, they haven't hurt me. They haven't actually caused the anger that's in your mind. That anger, that frustration, that sorrow and grief is coming from the mind holding on and wanting mom to be permanent. So even if mom didn't get murdered, let's just say she died naturally at old age, the mind is going to, if it's attached, experience grief or sorrow or sadness because it's holding on and it's craving permanence, wanting mom to be permanent. And now when it experiences impermanence, that's where those discontent feelings arise. So this person who's murdered mom, they actually aren't causing the hurt and the pain inside the mind. That's what the mind thinks. And that's why it has difficulties loving this person, because it thinks that this person has caused my sorrow and my grief, when in reality, that's not what's happened. So if you make sure you understand what's actually causing the pain, then you understand it's not the external things, and you can be loving and kind to everybody. This person who murdered your, of course your mom didn't get murdered, but if this person had murdered your mom, you're not going to probably go out to dinner and lunch with them. You're not going to probably invite them to come sleep at your house and have a sleepover or something like that. But you can at least get to the point where you have a genuine interest in seeing them be well. And part of that might mean they need to go away to jail or prison. They need to, learn and become more educated about how unwise it is to kill and to hurt. And that's part of having a genuine interest in seeing them be well. But having anger and hatred in your mind towards that person doesn't do anything to help you. It's not helping you whatsoever. So while it's hard right now for you to imagine loving someone who's killed your mother, that's just where you are right now. As you train your mind through these teachings and others, you ultimately can get to a point where you can see that that's very possible, and that your mind understands more of what love is, and you can practice it more in your day-to-day life where you don't have any conditions that are met. Because this love that we were talking about with craving, desire, attachment, that isn't really love, we might call that conditional love, even though there's no such thing as conditional love. It's kind of like, if you meet all my conditions, then I will say I love you, and I will act like I love you. But as soon as you stop doing what I want, I don't love you anymore. That's conditional love, even though there's no such thing as conditional love. And that's not what someone would be interested in. That's not what's going to lead to your peacefulness. Ultimately, what you would like to get to is unconditional love, where you love people unconditionally. There doesn't need to be any conditions met in order for you to love them. Okay, I don't see any other questions anywhere. So let me share with you the next two. This next one is called rest. Oh, you have a question? Yes, sir.
I'm an entrepreneurship, and most of my path is self-driven path, and 50% of the time I'm with a lot of energy and motivation, and maybe 50% of the time I'm kind of in this hindrance, complacency, dullness, lethargic, and kind of feeling lost because the path is not yet created. So my question here is, like, if you can tell me a little bit more about this complacency and about the remedy about it.
Yeah, your mind's going to swing like that because it hasn't been trained. I suspect you haven't learned the Eightfold Path before, right? Yeah, so you're going to need to start at the beginning, that's why I recommended, this book that you can get for free, this group learning program that I'm going to be restarting. Now we're at the very end of it, but at the beginning, which we're going to be starting Sunday, next Sunday, or officially restarting on June 1st, you can actually be gradually learning the teachings, which we start with the Eightfold Path. That's what's going to transform your mind, because what most people are experiencing, having not trained their mind, is they're going to swing from side to side. You're going to be excited and happy sometimes, but then your mind's going to swing to the other side where it's dull and lethargic. In both of these situations, you're not in the middle, but I can't teach you in just a couple of minutes how to bring the mind to the middle. This Eightfold Path, it takes me 2.5 hours to teach it. So that's why at the very beginning of the group learning program, I spend one class session per section. It's a 3-part series where I'm going to teach you in depth this Eightfold Path. And if you'd like to start learning now, you can, because it's on our YouTube channel, it's on our podcast, it's in the books, it's in the audiobooks. You can learn all of these things. But you're going to need to know the Eightfold Path. And that's what's going to bring your mind towards the middle. Here, I'm kind of wrapping up the program and kind of sharing some of these things to help people. Yeah. Okay, so let's go to the next one, which is restlessness and worry. This is where the mind's confused, distracted, having a restless state of mind, or you're worried about your own unskillful conduct, right? The mind can be worried about the world. You can have anxiety. You can have frustration, right? As long as there's this restlessness and worry in the mind, your mind's not going to be calm and peaceful and steady and still all throughout your day-to-day life. What's causing that restlessness and worry is the central desire. That's what's causing it. But the way that you eliminate it is first focus on the central desire, but then you also can work specifically with this restlessness and worry by bringing in the tranquility, the concentration, and the equanimity. That's what we talked about with the 7 Factors of Enlightenment. So that's what's going to help bring that mind out of that restless state, that overactive state, into the middle where it can be calm and steady and still. Then there's something called doubt. This is something that's going to hinder an individual from getting to enlightenment. What doubt is where you have doubt about the Buddha's teachings and their ability of them to attain enlightenment. And this is common for someone to have doubt when they first come to the path to enlightenment. You might have doubt whether this person, the Buddha, even existed. You might have doubt in his teachings. You might have doubt in this community and the ability of people to help you. You might have doubt in me and my ability to be able to guide you to enlightenment. You might have doubt in your own ability to get to enlightenment, whether you can actually do it or not. So if you have doubt, this is going to hinder you from getting to enlightenment. And most people do have doubt when they come to the path to enlightenment. But you don't get rid of your doubt by blind belief or faith. That's not how you get rid of your doubt. The way you get rid of your doubt is you investigate the teachings, you examine them. And by you investigating and examining the teachings, reflecting on them to verify whether they're true or false, and then you practice the teachings, integrating them into your day-to-day life, this is where you eliminate your doubt. So you can actually harness this doubt. You can say to yourself, you know what? I do doubt the teachings of the Buddha. You don't know whether they're true or they're false because maybe you haven't examined them close enough. Now you can harness this and you can sink your teeth into it. You can start reading the books. You can start coming to classes. You can start meditating. You can start spending time with a teacher and learn these teachings. And as you do, then as you investigate and examine them more and more and you start practicing them, you're going to see the condition of your mind improving and you're going to see the condition of your life improving. And as you do, that's where you'll get rid of your doubt. Slowly but surely, you're going to see gradual improvements to your mind and to your life. Because there's situations where you normally get angry, you normally get frustrated and agitated and annoyed. And when you're in those exact same situations and you're no longer experiencing the anger and the frustration, you'll know like, oh my goodness, these teachings are working. Right? Because you usually get frustrated, agitated in those situations. So the way you get rid of your doubt is through investigation of the teachings. And as you're gradually seeing this improvement, you'll get confidence in the Buddha. You'll get confidence in his teachings. You'll get confidence in this community. You'll get confidence in your teacher because that person has guided you to this improved state of mind. And you'll get confidence in your own ability to get to enlightenment because you see your mind's actually doing it and you're getting closer and closer to this enlightened mental state. So this doubt can be remedied. Most people have doubt when they come to the path, but you can harness it and turn it into an inquisitive mind where you now examine his teachings. And that's what's actually going to help you to eliminate this doubt. So do you guys have any questions on any of these two? Yep.
Thanks, David. I really like the Buddha's teachings and this sort of remedy to the human condition, which seems everybody has to some degree, But, I was thinking, Freud said that, whatever, he was talking about neuroses, like I think the Buddha is describing here. He said, whatever doesn't get worked through will repeat and repeat and repeat and repeat. Mm-hmm. That's why he came up with psychoanalysis. And as much as there's the description of using energy.
The microphone is impermanent. just like the Buddha said.
Yeah. So I wonder would the Buddha say there's any value in examining the neuroses, if you like, or the hindrance? I mean, how long would someone spend? I mean, personally speaking, I have this underlying fear, and I don't even know what it is. Mm-hmm. But my baseline emotion, I just get this. There's an anxiety that I've had it for as long as I can remember. It's just a sense of fear. And if you ask me what it was, if you said there's £1,000, tell me what I couldn't tell you. I don't really know what it is.
Yeah.
But when I meditate, I want.
It's still on. It's just cutting in and out.
Is there any? Would the Buddhist teacher say examine that, sit in silence, and try and trace the source of the fear and see where that impermanence is? Or is there any value in that, in doing that? Or is it, no, hang on, I know the remedy, I should just start doing that, look at the teachings, go show acts of loving kindness and generosity as a way to remedy it instead of understanding it? I don't know.
Yeah, so if you understand the Four Noble Truths, which is the very first, most beginning teaching of the Buddha, you already understand what is producing the fear. It sounds like you don't, though. What's producing the fear is craving, desire, attachment. There's sensual desire. So let's just use a simple fear. Let's just say somebody is afraid of spiders, right? They're having sensual desire. They're having craving, desire, attachment. They're craving to never see a spider. They permanently don't want to see a spider, right? And they're trying to push this away out of their life, thinking that that's going to solve the problem. But there's that fear of spiders. And whenever they see a spider, they get fearful. Well, the way that you eliminate this is you train your mind through the Eightfold Path, using things like breathing, mindfulness, meditation, generosity, but all the other things that are on the Eightfold Path too, because you need to let go of that craving, desire, attachment. So understanding what's causing the fear, craving, desire, attachment, now you see that with clarity, and now you apply the effort to bring the Eightfold Path into your life more and more. And then as you're doing that, you can look inward and you can see, the mind's craving permanence. I don't ever want to see a spider. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to expose my mind to this. I'm going to go around some spiders and train my mind to be comfortable and content and peaceful and joyful around spiders. I'm going to look at pictures of spiders. I'm going to go to museums where they have spiders. I'm going to go to pet stores where they have spiders. I'm going to go to the zoo. I'm going to go out in the woods and see spiders. I'm going to expose my mind to this. And this is what's going to help you to eliminate that fear, because the mind's trying to hold on to this, I never want to see a spider. And what you're saying is, no. Come on, mind. You're coming over here. I'm going to expose you to some spiders. And now you train the mind to be comfortable with the spiders. So one of the things you're doing on the path to enlightenment, among other things, is you're creating a tool belt to understand this mind and understand the various tools and remedies to apply. So whenever you see a discontent feeling in your mind, you should look inward and you should be reflective and introspective. And you should say, what is it that the mind's craving here? What am I longing, yearning for? And then once you uncover that, then you can apply skillfully the various tools and techniques that the Buddha teaches you to eliminate that craving, desire, attachment, uproot it out of the mind. Then you won't experience that discontentedness anymore. So yeah, he teaches you to do that, to look inward, but you maybe haven't sat in when I've taught that in this program, where I teach you how to look inward and start to uncover these cravings and then almost surgically go in and remove them from the mind. Mm-hmm. Did you have a question, ma'am?
Yeah, so thank you. I want to know if I need to love other people, then I have to love myself first. So how to distinguish between loving myself or just being selfish?
Okay.
And how can I know the love is from my ego or the true self?
Okay. So love is a genuine interest in seeing all beings be well, including this being who you are. If you're selfish, you're going to want everything to be self-satisfying for yourself, and you're not going to care about other people. So your practice of loving kindness, where you have this genuine interest in seeing all beings be well, coupled with compassion, which is concern for the misfortune of others. You might also practice generosity from time to time, and you can see that you're not just being selfish, that you're helping other people. So all of these things are helping, working together to help the mind to get to the point where it has love for all beings. If you have ego in the mind, which every unenlightened being has to a certain degree, is you're going to have arrogance, you're going to have pride, you're going to think you're above other people, you're going to judge people, and you're going to put yourself above them, and you're going to put yourself below people. So if you see your mind doing that, that's where the Eightfold Path is there. You can actually cut that off and eliminate it. And there's also other things. If you look in this book, in chapter 16, it's all about the ego and how to eliminate the ego, because you need to eliminate that measuring and comparing and putting yourself above and below people, because as long as you're doing that, you can't reside harmoniously with all people. And then you kind of mentioned something called the true self. There's no such thing as a true self. That's actually part of the ego. The mind's trying to grab on to something and say, like, I am Chinese, or I am rich, or I am wealthy, or I am friendly, or I am a nurse, or I am a doctor. This is the mind grabbing on and saying, this is who I am as a person. This is my true self. But that's just all an illusion. That's not actually true. The Buddha teaches that there is no self. So while this body was born on a land that we refer to as the USA, and people say American, this person is an American. No, I'm not an American. Right? This mind understands that this body was born on a land that's referred to as the USA, but the mind doesn't have to adopt the identity that I am an American. Because as soon as you adopt that identity, now when someone says all Americans are lovely and kind and warm and gentle, which I've never heard that before, but maybe somebody might say that, right? If somebody says like all Americans are lovely and kind and warm and gentle, and I identify that way, it's like, wow, they're talking about me. But then it's only a matter of time before someone says something degrading and disparaging. And now if I identify that way, now when they're talking about Americans in that way, now I'll be frustrated and agitated. So the Buddha teaches you to get rid of those labels and don't identify with those as who you are. So this body was probably born in China, maybe? Yeah, it was born in China. But your mind doesn't have to adopt the identity, I am Chinese, right? But that's what the mind does. As we grow up, we tend to adopt these labels. This is called conditioning of the mind, where the mind has been conditioned to think a certain way. But what you're doing on this path is you're purifying that and you're clearing that out so that you don't experience the highs when people are talking kindly of Chinese people, and you don't experience the lows when people are talking in a degrading way about Chinese people. You can just be like, they're not talking about me because I'm not Chinese. They're not talking about me because I'm not American, right? So you can be at ease. You can be peaceful and joyful. Yep. Okay, so now that I've introduced you to the 5 hindrances, I'm just going to share one more thing with you. There's a hindrance that is above all hindrances. It's called ignorance, or the unknowing of true reality. This is one of the fetters that the Buddha talks about. These are what's called the five hindrances, but the Buddha goes into more detail about other hindrances. The hindrance above all hindrances is a lack of wisdom, confusion, the unknowing of true reality. This is going to hinder someone from getting to enlightenment. The Buddha doesn't list it as one of the five individual hindrances because it's above all of this. It's like a high level hindrance that is the hindrance of all hindrances. That when you lack wisdom, when you have confusion about the world and how the world's truly constructed, it will hinder you from experiencing peace and joy. So for example, you might have the belief that other people are causing you to be angry. You might have the belief that other people are causing you to be frustrated or agitated or annoyed. As long as you lack the wisdom to know the truth, that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings, you will never get to enlightenment. You will never get to peacefulness. If you go around the world continually blaming other people for the feelings that you experience, you will never experience peace and joy, because you'll keep trying to change other people. You'll keep trying to fix other people. Meanwhile, your mind is still having this central desire where you're wanting and expecting things to be a certain way. So as long as you have lack of wisdom of the path, of the mind, of these natural laws, you will continue to be hindered from getting to enlightenment. So that's why the ultimate goal in this path is to cultivate wisdom, where you know the truth and you can see for yourself true reality about how your mind functions and how the world functions. So that's why the teachings of the Buddha aren't based in belief. You don't believe a bunch of things and then hope something good happens when you die. You're actually cultivating wisdom by examining and investigating teachings, by reflecting on them to independently verify them, and then practicing them, integrating them into your day-to-day life so that now you can apply this wise decision-making to train your mind in wise decisions in your day-to-day relationships. So there's this hindrance above all hindrances that people typically refer to as ignorance. I don't tend to use this word because it's a derogatory word, and a person who's enlightened, a person who's a Buddha, the Buddha didn't use this word because it's a derogatory way, degrading way to refer to somebody. I would never call anybody ignorant. A better way to think about it is the unknowing of true reality, the confusion, the misunderstanding, the misperception that the mind has. The mind firmly believes that other people are causing you to be angry. But when you study the Four Noble Truths and you see the truth, you'll be able to see that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings. And when you come to that wisdom, now you can have a breakthrough to be able to apply a real solution to actually fix what's going on in your mind. But as long as this unknowing of true reality, this lack of wisdom is in the mind, you'll never break through to being able to actually solve your discontent feelings because you're lacking the wisdom of what's actually causing them. If you don't understand what's causing them, then you're not going to be able to apply a solution. So if you go around the world thinking that other people are causing you to be angry or frustrated or fearful or what have you, then you'll continue to struggle and continue to experience discontentedness. So that's why the Buddha teaches you to cultivate wisdom. Don't believe anything at all. So this is like the hindrance of all hindrances. So I'm just going to end here. Oh, we have some things coming on Zoom. Let me just see what we've got here. It looks like Melody is asking, when doing loving kindness meditation, I'm interested in seeing my mom to be well, but in reality, she's not well. Knowing that I can't expect her to be a certain way, I wonder what I can do. So this loving kindness meditation isn't to make her well, right? What it is for you in your mind to have these thoughts of wellness towards her so that now when you're around her, you can function in a loving and a kind way. So that's what loving kindness meditation is for. So knowing somebody is unwell doesn't change the fact that your mind needs to spend time around this person where you have a genuine interest in them being well. But each person's wellness is their responsibility. You're not responsible for your mom's wellness. Now, you might do things in order to help her get medical care or food or things like this, but that's not something you're obligated to do. Those are things that you're choosing to do because you love her, because you have unconditional love. You are now applying effort and energy towards certain activities to help her to be well, but it's ultimately her that's responsible for her own wellness. So this meditation isn't to create her to be well. It's to create in your mind that you have an interest in seeing her be well, so that then your intention, speech, and actions are motivated by that mental state or that mental quality of loving kindness. Mike is asking, I'm a bit confused because you mentioned that no longer feel frustrated, but we don't want to no longer feel excited, just neutral, right? This isn't 100% true, Mike. There's what's called conditioned feelings, right? There's pleasant feelings, painful feelings, and neither painful nor pleasant, right? And these are conditional feelings. So the pleasant feelings are excitement, elated, the happiness. Those conditioned feelings are based on whether you get what you want or not. If you get what you want, you're happy and excited. But if you don't get what you want, then you're angry or frustrated or sad. And this is conditional feelings. There's some condition that's producing these feelings. By the time you get to enlightenment, your mind's not neutral, right? Some people think that it's like just even keel. Well, yeah, your mind is stable and steady, but you have this cheerfulness, you have this brightness, you have this radiance, you have this gladness that is just always in the mind. It's unconditional. When you wake up in the morning, you're glad, you're happy. All day long, you're glad, you're happy. You go to sleep, you're continuing to be glad and happy. But it's not this conditional bouncing off the wall, excited stuff that you're probably used to now as a conditional feeling. It's where the mind is bright and cheerful and uplifted. You're not happy because your mom died. You're happy despite she died. Right? So sometimes people think that when you're sad and you're sorrowful and grieving when someone dies, they think that's because of love. It's not the love. That's because the mind's craving permanence. So you can actually continue to maintain your joy and your happiness even when your mom or dad or other people are dying around you. You're not happy because they died. That would be conditional, right? You're happy despite they died. That because your mind understands impermanence, that mom was born, so therefore she has to die. There's no way around that. Every single one of us are going to experience this, right? Because we were born, we had to die. We arose, we change, and we fade away. We are going to die. But there's no need for us to be angry or frustrated that this is occurring, because this is a natural part of life. This is just a natural occurrence of the impermanent nature of our world. So if every time we experience impermanence, if we're angry and we're frustrated, that's because our mind is craving permanence, not understanding that we live in an impermanent world. So your mind isn't neutral or flat when you're enlightened. Your mind is joyful and uplifted because you're now navigating the world peacefully, because you understand these natural laws. You understand everything around you. But when you don't understand the world that you live in, when someone dies, you'll be angry or frustrated because the mind's craving permanence while you're living in an impermanent world. So the more you awaken and you train your mind to let go, you can be happy in all situations because everything's constantly changing around you. Like, for example, we started this class with a certain number of people, and now people have been coming and going, right? If I had a craving for all the people that came and started the class, for them to stay here, then that means when people left, I would be frustrated, I'd be agitated. But if you understand impermanence and that people are going to come and go and this is normal, then you can be completely at ease and peaceful when you see that coming and going, right? That you're not upset by that. So if you have a relationship where you're holding on to this person, wanting them to be permanent, when they move, when they go be with someone else, when they die, you'll be frustrated because you're holding on to that relationship, wanting it to be permanent. So your feelings in the enlightened mental state, it's not neutral. What you're experiencing is, you're not experiencing this up and down of feelings. You're actually experiencing unconditioned mental qualities where your mind is always joyful, always bright, always radiant, always uplifted, always glad. But it's not that conditional stuff where you're bouncing off the wall. Okay. All right. So I don't see any more questions anywhere. So what I'm going to do is just end class by thanking all of you guys for your questions. Thank you for being interested to learn the path to Enlightenment. Thank you for joining online as well, for those of you guys that are attending online. If you'd like to learn more, there's classes that we have here on Sunday, Wednesday, and Saturday. We have them here at the temple, and we live stream them. So no matter where you are in the world, you can learn with us, continue to grow and develop. We also have courses and retreats and things like this that you can attend, and they're also live streamed as well. Everything's available for you at no cost, whether it's the books, the videos, the audiobooks, the podcasts, personal guidance, courses, classes, retreats. Everything's available to you at no cost. I'm motivated to be able to help you learn and grow and develop on this path. So if you're interested in transforming your mind, getting to a point where you're peaceful and joyful and you have harmonious relationships with everybody around you, that's what the teachings of the Buddha are here for. And I'm motivated to be able to help you to do that. And I've set up in such a way that you can learn here in Chiang Mai, but you can also learn anywhere in the world that you might be. So feel free to reach out. I'm here to help you. Our website is a great hub that kind of launches off, and you can get access to all the materials and resources and the classes that you need, so you can use that. You can start with this first book if you'd like to start with this first book. We're going to be restarting this whole program essentially next week and the week after. We're going to be starting each Sunday. We're going to be starting from the very beginning of this program, and little by little, I'm going to be helping students to be able to build a foundation in the path to enlightenment and developing this life practice. So if you're interested in transforming your mind and transforming your life, there's help for you here, and I'm motivated to be able to help you with that. So if you'd like to attend future classes, you're more than welcome. On Wednesday, I'm going to be doing meditation with students, and then I'm just going to open up to any and all questions that you might have. Next week in our group learning program, it's the unofficial restart. It's called Getting to Know the Teacher, where students can ask me any and all questions about my personal life that they'd like, to give you guys an opportunity to learn about me and what I've been up to, so that you can maybe get to know me a little bit before we actually start the program on June 1st. So if you'd like to attend on Sunday, you're more than welcome to do that. So whatever you guys decide to do in your day today, have a very wonderful and lovely rest of your day. Take care and be well. Perhaps I'll see you next time. Sawadee krap. Sawadee krap.
Thank you again for watching. Enjoy your meditation. Look forward to seeing you online and answering any questions that you might have. Thank you so much.